I want to move on here because Brad also said something else, and it's about a receiver. And we had this conversation about adding to the wide receiver room. And my thought process on it was, hey, I like who they have. I think they have enough. If you want to bring in someone to compete, cool. But if they go into the season with who they have, excuse me, I'm confident. I'm not like, oh wow, wide receiver's a weakness. No, you have enough. And I'm counting Sam Laporta in that because he is a tight end, but he's basically a receiver. Brad Holmes talked about Antoine Green. He did. Yes, I'm saying that it is the truth. He talked about Antoine Green, and what he said was, and I'll read the quote, we're really excited about Antoine Green. He has size, he has speed. He's another guy that kept getting better and better. So, hey, what do you think about that, Booner? What do you think about that?
Antoine?
Yeah.
I'm in on it.
Now you're in.
No, I mean, listen, just like the last conversation when you try to say, oh, do you trust Brad with that? I do trust Brad wholeheartedly. If he thinks that this wide receiver room is good, he did also bring up Jamo. He said Jamo's been coming on very, very strong, and I have high hopes for him. And we like where he's at, and he's going to continue to get better. So even with Jameson Williams, Antoine Green, if they trust that, he likes DPJ. But you know what he also said, Jeff, and I don't want to leave this out. He also said, I totally understand when you want to feel more, comfort to see it. It feels more comfort to see a guy that has already done it, and you want a guy like that in the room. So like he does get both sides to where maybe this isn't the most comfortable receiving core when you're sitting there looking at it as a fan or breaking the team down. But he feels like Antoine Green, Jamo, there's a lot of potential there. And he also mentioned come training camp, don't be surprised if they bring on another receiver or two and they sign someone. So I think everyone here could be happy with the comments today.
Yeah, I just think he's more so a depth piece. I just think he'll just stay at that wide receiver 5 spot. If they bring in another body like they did with Denzel Mims, that's who he's going to be going up against to kind of get the rotation. If they decide they want to bring up the legend Tom Kennedy, see if he has another run at it, he'll be going up against Antoine Green. I just think he's going to be the last guard in the wide receiver room. He got some snaps last year. It's not like he didn't touch the field at all. But at the end of the day, you would prefer he's a fine wide receiver 5, but you would prefer a better option. I know Booner's pounding the table for Zay Jones, but get anyone. Give me Isaiah Hodgkins. I would prefer. And I know he put up 200 yards, but I just think if you look at it, I just think there's guys that can do more things than Antoine Green, especially when you look at Antoine Green. I don't think he's the best route runner. I don't think he would be the best blocker on the perimeter, but at the same time, he does understand Ben Johnson's system. That does take time to develop. So when you talk about bringing in these guys off the streets, that's the difference and why they're probably comfortable with him. We're arguing over not even arguing. We're talking about a wide receiver 5 spot. I don't think there's much to be kicking dirt over.
And I think DPJ is still going to get his fair share of touches. I think you may see Antoine Green more towards the beginning of the year when Khalif Raymond's health is still, questionable up in the air. But, I'm not expecting much out of Antoine Green. Like Lukas said, he's a wide receiver 5. And I think Khalif Raymond, like we talked about, he was real successful when he was in. He was like another safety net for Goff. And I think DPJ takes that next step this year. And I think he's going to fit in perfectly with this wide receiver room. And you got to get Jamo touches. I just don't think there's not enough ball to be moved around to this many people. And he, like Lukas said, he's way down there on the wide receiver depth chart. And that's okay. I mean, if he shows some spurts of some good football, it's good to have him, maybe a reliable guy down there, but not expecting much.
Okay. All right. And by the way, your Lord and Savior, Isaiah Hodgkins, 6th round pick. All right. So let's put
better than the 7th. Better than the 7th, baby.
Yeah, I think it was 207. So there you go. He was tweening. 207. He was tweening.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say,
up in a playoff game.
He did. But what happened? Why did he do? What happened? Right? He was drafted by Buffalo. Didn't really get any opportunity. I think he had 41 yards that year. Didn't really play at all. What happened when he got to New York? What happened? I don't know. What happened?
You got the Dable show, baby.
He got targets. Sorry, I was waiting for it to click. He got targets, and he had 42 targets for 351 yards. 33 of those were catches, and he played in 8 games. Had a pretty productive 2022, and he followed that up with 230 yards. Are you kidding me, Klotzy? You don't think Antoine Green?
I literally said just a jag, just a guy. I think there's better
Antoine Green is beating out those Jags.
And I said he very well could. I'm saying when those guys enter, that's who he's going to have to compete with. He's going to be that last guard. Whenever they bring in these guys from different teams or from the waivers, whatever.
Which they will.
The first guy they're going to have to go up against is Antoine Green. They're not going up against Khalif Raymond. Khalif Raymond has way more value on this team than Antoine Green. If there was somebody that's going to lose their spot in this wide receiver room right now for a free agent or for whatever, it's going to be Antoine Green. And it doesn't have to be Isaiah Hodgins. That's just a guy that is somebody that I like that's a free agent. Like, it doesn't have to be him. They can trade for fucking Justin Watson from Kansas City. I don't care. Like, I'm just saying, I think there's better. I would rather just going back to Brad's point, let a veteran that's at the tail end of their career or whoever, just let them sit at the wide receiver 5 spot, learn the Ben Johnson offense. So that way, when there's number called, they know how to adjust to the situation and see the field better. The game's slower for them. There's less growing pains.
I will say this, and this is where I'm starting to come around on it a little bit. Hearing Brad talk about Antoine Green makes me feel a little bit better about the development side. Because, well, Jeff, we didn't hear from Brad Holmes until this morning. The only thing is we have heard nothing about Antoine Green. He might have touched the field sometimes last year. How many targets and catches did he have? So we haven't seen anything out of him. The first thing we've heard about him or seen him in the last 12 months was this morning, Brad saying that they do think that he's developed really well, and being a whole year with Ben Johnson now and working with him, I do think there's a chance you could say they can get something out of him. The one thing that worries me to where if you wait too long to bring a vet in, or if you do it during mid-season, he mentioned today about the DPJ thing. Like, we've seen what DPJ could do, but he came in the middle of the season in a Ben Johnson offense, a very complex offense that you need to know and you need to develop with Jared Goff and get that chemistry and work with these guys to where if you bring a guy in too late, is he really going to help you out that much? More than an Antoine Green, more than a DPJ, more than a Khalif Raymond, more than a Jamo, who's worked with them for this whole time and the last 12 months. Do you see what I'm saying with there? So that's where I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with this room, because I do think with Ben Johnson, I do think as you get guys more involved, you get more comfortable with it. Like, we've seen guys like Brock Wright have big games under Ben Johnson. I think a guy like DPJ can do that. I think, again, Jamo can do that. Khalif Raymond, there's a reason they extended him. Is because he's put up numbers and he's had 400 or 500 yards in the season with Ben Johnson. So I'm a little bit with you here. I still don't hate the idea of, and just like Brad said, when training camp comes around or before training camp, we will bring more guys on. So they're gonna, if someone gets cut, they're gonna bring guys on. There's gonna be another wide receiver in this room at some point. Just creates competition, helps you get that much better. So I don't hate that as well.
You know what? Both sides. We went from arguing to now we agree. So
Brad spoke.
That's what it took. Man.
Dude, you have to see where we're coming from a little bit here. Like, I'm sure Klotz agrees too. It's when you have a blind eye and you didn't really know where DPJ was at in this offense because he came in so late, and especially a guy like Antoine Green, a late pick, and you saw literally, you've seen nothing of him. And I know it's like the Broderick Martin, but like with Broderick, you still have guys ahead of him who are going to be able to, we know are going to, with this, you're asking everyone to move up and Antoine to be a part of the rotation. So when Brad comes out and says, hey, we really like what we've seen, we trust him. I trust Brad. Just like Brad trusts Antoine, I trust Brad.
Well, Mike, I mean, we tried talking to the man. I mean, we talked to him. We gave our opinion. We're confident in the Antoine Green and what his development is, because John hit on it, fellas. I mean, this offense is complex. Veterans would have an easier time getting in and learning the playbook. But when you have DPJ, who's been here for over a year now, and Antoine over a year now, like, I would trust those guys over some jag you bring in. Like, need depth. Like, I'd rather just have Antoine at that point. So I'm excited.
To be honest, it really depends on wide receiver, because nothing has changed that much in the offseason. With training camp hasn't even started. Antoine Green hasn't improved that much over. I get it. I get that's what you would answer as a GM when you're asked about the wide receiver room. You talk your guys up a little bit, but there's no way he's improved that much. The offseason, they haven't gone through everything with their wide receivers. It's not training camp yet. So there are some certain wide receivers that would come in and be better than him right on. And obviously he didn't trust him down the stretch, because when a wide receiver got down, he went and scooped DPJ up real quick. And nothing's really changed in that amount of time. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, free agent wide receivers. Can I interest you to Michael Thomas?
No.
See, but that's what it's going to be too much money, I feel like.
Yeah, you give
like
us.
if it were to be like, that's where it's when you talk about like those things, it's like, and you already know this, but Brad Holmes, he's not a Brad Holmes type of guy, I don't think. And even if he was, he's going to command that type of money. That's where it's going to be those Jags type of guys. I don't think they need a Michael Thomas. I just think they literally need another body in the room due to injury.
What about a Hunter Renfrow?
I'd fucking love a little Hunter Renfrow. You want to talk about a guy I would love to have on this roster? Bring me Hunter Renfrow right now. Yes.
Zay Jones.
What if they
I'd say
picked
Hunter
up
Renfrow over Zay Jones.
Yeah, I probably would too.
In my mind.
Would you have taken the wide receiver the Rams dropped and the Texans picked up?
Skowronek?
Yeah, would you have taken him?
Yeah,
would you
I would take Ben Skowronek 11 times out of 10 over Antoine Green.
Come on now. That's kind of where I was going with my last point. There's people that will slot in and be better than him right now.
By the way, Skowronek he ended up getting traded, boys.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was.
Either way,
I don't give a shit. I ain't taking
the Texans wide receiver room right now, though, boys.
No, I'm not. I'm not letting you get away with it.
Bro, you guys are gassing up. You're gassing up Antoine Green when we really haven't seen anything. Just because Brad said he got better, we still have to see it. They haven't gone through training camp. There hasn't been that much room for improvement because he hasn't been out there doing anything.
I'll go the Lukas route.
Here we go.
The stats don't tell me what my eyes have seen.
Yeah, the eyes tell me Ben Skowronek too. The fuck are you talking to me about?
No, I watched preseason. No, I watched preseason last year. I watched Antoine Green make some plays.
He had a big play.
I watched Antoine Green make some plays.
This is like when you reveal.
And why didn't he trust him enough to put him in over?
My take, and then you reveal the mask, and it's a Jeff take. Because if you watch the film, Ben Skowronek, even when he was in Pittsburgh, was all right at punt returning, kick returning. He's a damn good route runner, and he's a good blocker. He's better at route running, has better hands, and is able to contribute.
Better route running based on what?
The film!
You haven't seen him. I don't know. You got access to linebackers.
We haven't seen him, but he suddenly improved all offseason, even though training camp hasn't started. He improved while he was lifting weights.
Well, okay. I don't. That's wrong.
Ben Skowronek ain't no fucking world beater by any means.
But wait, boys. Why don't we just cut this argument off? Ben Skowronek is not coming to the Detroit. He's playing for the Houston Texans.
As an example, though.
Yeah, but you guys are starting to get into actual, like, you guys are breaking down his route running and stuff. Like, there's a chance he comes in over Antoine Green. Let's talk about Hunter Renfrow now. Let's break down
Hunter Renfrow.
Hey, let's talk about Hunter Renfrow.
Why would you take Hunter Renfrow? He's had 200 yards the last 2 years.
Talk to me, Klotz.
His hands, his durability.
Yes, but Hunter Renfrow and I don't know Ben Skowronek. Hunter Renfrow had 100 catch 1,000-yard season. All right,
absolutely. Hunter Renfrow's without a doubt.
I'll give you. Zay Jones, you can have it. Ben Skowronek, you're dying. You're gonna
better. You're asking him to be wide receiver 5. You're not asking him for 1,000 yards, though.
You're asking him to maybe get 150 yards on the season.
You said you wanted a reliable option at wide receiver 5. Those are 2 reliable options.
No. Hunter Renfrow can be like an elite 4-5.
Yeah, like that's where
he was like a number 1 option 3 years ago.
I think Antoine could give you exactly what a Skowronek would do. What his touches. Antoine could do. Like Hunter Renfrow, I'm like, they might use him. He might jump above fucking DPJ. Like Hunter Renfrow's that guy. But like Ben Skowronek, the whole wide receiver core would have to get COVID, and then he steps out there. Like, what are we doing here, fellas?
He's not Trey Quinn. Okay, get the Trey Quinn image out of your mind. He's better than Trey Quinn. That's what you got stuck in your mind. He's not Chase fucking Cota. All right. That's all we're saying. He's better than those guys.
Oh, Skowronek?
Antoine Green was competing for a spot with Chase Cota and Dylan Drummond. It was neck and neck. So if you want to talk about that, Ben Skowronek's earned a spot before them for good reason.
I'm just saying, my point, just wrap it up. All right.
Pause.
My point is, I am so comfortable with Antoine Green. I'm excited. The only way you can convince me, like, hey, bring in a free agent is if you're giving me some substance. You're not going to be like, hey, man, Ben Skowronek is an example, but like it could be anybody, some jag, some random wide receiver that's fighting for a roster, whatever it is. And you're like, I would take this guy over Antoine Green. It's like, come on. I mean what are we doing?
Skowronek, or however you say it, he is a jag. Let's just be honest. He's a jag.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So like Renfro and Zay
I'm
Jones,
comfortable with
yes,
what they
way
have.
better. We're
That is my
taking those
point.
guys.
I am comfortable with what they have until you bring me someone of substance, Gentry and Klotz, not Mr. Man of a Skoronic build or esque. Skoronic-esque.